Hello and welcome back to another episode of Notion Bonsai. And today we're going to be working on a white spruce, also known as a Picea glauca. Alright, so this is the white spruce that we're going to be working on today. I found this in a garden center and it's actually got quite a thick trunk already. So this is going to be one of the bigger bonsai projects as it's quite a big tree. And the first thing that I'm going to do is take this out of the pot, and it seems to be a pot inside a pot. All right, there we go. So the tools that I'll be using today are some bonsai scissors, wire cutters, some gin pliers, branch cutters, knob cutters, and a pair of tweezers. And also a bent fork. And I'm going to take this bent fork and just rake the top of the soil here. Now, I don't want to do a repot as it's not the right time of year to repot. The best time of year to repot is in early spring. All I'm doing now is just revealing more of the trunk and possibly searching for a nabari, which is the root flare at the base of a tree. That will help me determine which is the front of the bonsai. Many factors in determining the front of your bonsai. It could also be the branch structure, the best way the branches sort of sit. There is no right or wrong sort of front to a bonsai. I guess it's whatever way you think looks the best, but there's just a few sort of conventions that's good to follow when choosing a front. And in some trees there could be many possible fronts, such as this tree where we're essentially spoiled for choice. So I've raked away some of the topsoil here now, and there's quite a lot of lower branches growing from like the very base of the trunk. And with younger, smaller material, it's a good idea to keep these branches, and they're known as sacrificial branches, with the idea of sacrificing them later, cutting them off after they have done their job of thickening the main trunk. But now I guess these sacrificial branches, unintentional sacrificial branches, have done their job. So I'm just gonna remove these. These are quite low down. In a bonsai, there isn't usually this many branches on the bottom third of the tree. Another quite low down branch. I'm just going to remove all these around the base. I know it can seem like quite a lot to remove so many branches, but these are not being removed in vain. These branches here are dead. I just turn this around here. There's like a little stump of a branch. Just basic cleanup work to begin with. There's a little branch here I don't need. Now if I pull these branches down, these are where these other branches now are going to fill the place of where these other ones used to be. So all that I have removed so far is the bottom portion of the tree here, and as you can see, there is so much foliage that has come off this tree, and there's still so much more here. You just can't really see it out of frame. Now just on a little side note, if you wish to take cuttings from a Picea, the best time to do so is late summer, early autumn. And whenever you select the cutting to take, you want to take maybe, I always take like the size of my hand, and you want it to be like the fresh new growth. So if this is the main branch on the tree you're taking it from, and you pull down like this is what's known as a heel cutting, and just snip off this piece. Then you want to remove all of the lower branches, all the lower needles. And it should look something like this. So you've got nothing on this half and then all foliage on the top piece. You want to dip the end here in some hormone rooting powder. And when you stick it into the soil, you want to put it the whole way up to like here and have all of this under the soil. So you want to pot deep enough. I'm not sure about this specific genus of spruce, but I know the dwarf Alberta spruce can take somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks to root. And just as a note, it's not 100% necessary to use hormone rooting powder. It should send its own natural auxins down from the tips of the cutting to the base and convert the cells at the bottom here from branch cells to root cells. But a hormone rooting powder will actually speed up this process as it's like a synthetic form of auxin. Oh yeah, you can also take what's known as a nodal cutting. So the heel cutting was here at the bottom that came off a main branch. A nodal cutting is on a branch already, and you can see here on this branch where this branch emanates here, if we just cut below that and then cut off that branch, this will then root in the exact same way. So what I'm going to do now is just clean out all of the dead foliage that's in the inner parts of the tree. If you do notice in any of your trees, the sort of inside branches start to die, you can take them off as they're dead. And the reason why they die off is because the tree isn't getting sufficient light to the inside. So as with bonsai, one of the reasons of pulling all the branches down, apart from making the tree look more mature and older, it's to let light get inside to encourage more back budding, and then in the future the tree will grow more and more dense. And what I'm doing is just preparing the tree to wire it so that whenever I wire, there's no dead twigs or branches trapped in the wire. When you're working a picea like this, it's generally good to work from the bottom to the top. And all I'm going to do is just wire all the branches downwards. And the wire that I'll be using today is 2.5mm aluminium bonsai wire. I've decided to use this as the front for this bonsai, as around these sides here there seems to be sort of too many branches going in all different ways. And I don't want to take off too many branches from this area, as I quite like this as a front of the tree. And whenever you style a tree, you want to show off the trunk line that the tree has. So I'm going to wire this branch to this branch. I'm just going to pull them down slightly. So I have seen a few people struggle with wiring two branches together. So I'm going to show the easiest way that I know how to do it. So I've got my length of wire here. I've measured it to the two branches across like this. I'm going to take the wire, measure it to this branch of how far I would like it to go. Then from here, push this right in against the sort of elbow of this branch. A good connection here means it will be a good wire. And then I'll just hold it with my finger and pull it around the back like this. And you want each curl around the branch to be a 45-degree angle, just like that. And then whilst keeping this nice and tight around here, I'm going to go behind and come up. And then do the same thing here, making sure that it's a nice tight twist around this branch. Again, coming at a 45-degree angle. And as you get to the end of the branch, because it starts to get more and more delicate, I find it then just coil it like an open coil, where it's not fully tightened around the branch, but it's in a place in where it will hold it. And I'll do the same here with this other branch, finishing off the wiring. Alright, so I wired them down. Now, here's a little problem that's quite common whenever people are wiring trees. And this next branch above it is going to be wired on top of it here like this. But in between, there's this sort of like branch that, you know, if you wire that down and this down, it can become too congested in this area. So that's a good sort of sign that this branch doesn't belong here, as it will be in the way of the one above it. And you'll find that as you keep wiring branches down, there'll be branches in between that they're just unnecessary, and they can be removed also. So I don't like this branch here in the final design, so I'm going to take that out. So when this one's wired down, it'll fill that gap nicely. So before I wire branches, I like to just push them down to see where they'll be before I wire. And moving up the tree now, I'm going to be wiring this branch to this branch. But because there's so many branches on this branch here, I'm just going to remove some of these, cleaning up that area. Same here, just going to remove some of them lower branches on the branch. Piceas back bud very, very well. Now you don't want to be afraid to make the wire nice and tight. Not too tight, but sort of snugly in the branch. As I work on this tree, it's giving off like a lovely smell, like a spruce forest smell. It's great. Trees tend to put most of their energy at the apex of the tree so that they can grow higher and higher and reach more sunlight. And because we're spreading these branches out, the sunlight will get into the tree. I just feel that this tree is a little bit too tall to be in proportions with a bonsai. For now, I'm going to chop it here. And this looks like a little mini tree. You can actually practice your wiring on a little tree like this by wiring everything downwards. And now I'm going to continue to wire the branches down. Now as I get to some of the thinner branches, I've switched to using a 1mm wire, as that's enough to hold that branch. And now to the apex of the tree. This can be a little bit tricky on sort of understanding how you're going to create that nice bonsai apex dome shape in the future. But I just feel that the tree is like a little bit still too tall to be in proportion for a bonsai. So I'm going to take my branch cutters again, and I'm going to cut it right here at this area. Just like that. It looks quite funny from a top-down view. This is what it looks like at the apex now, but when all of these are fanned downwards, it'll start to make sense. During summer, spruce like this love to be in the full sun, It's important that whenever you repot a Picea like this, that you don't repot it unless it's pot bound like this. As I find sometimes if you remove too much roots and it's repotted before it needs to be repot, you can find like the distance between buds can lengthen and you get like really long spindly shoots and less dense growth. Now whenever you're doing this, don't be too worried about what's known as handlebar branches. That's when there's two branches directly opposite each other on the trunk. As this is the first styling, I'd like to keep a lot of these branches just for now, so that all of this foliage will give energy to the tree. And then at a later date, I'm going to come in then and remove them handlebar branches and make the tree look a little bit more staggered to make it look older. But for now, all I'd like to do is give the tree a basic styling, its first styling, to set it up to become a bonsai. But even after this styling, it's going to look quite well. So I'm going to come in with the knob cutters that have like a concave shape. I'm just going to clean up a little bit of this cut, making it nice and flush. So here's just a little tip on applying some cut putty here. If I try and push this on and then I let go, it sort of sticks to your finger, and that's no good. But if you wet your thumb with a little bit of water and then push it on it, it sticks nicely on the tree. I'm just going to cover all the edges of this wound. The cut putty also has a few advantages. Firstly, it stops moisture coming out of the tree. It also stops moisture getting into the tree. And some cut putties like this one have a fungicide in it to stop fungus getting into your trees. So this is the point we have arrived at now with the spruce. All the branches have been wired down. And now to give it a shape. So I'm going to go for a triangular sort of shape. So see how my hands hit here as I make that triangular shape. Sort of flares out at the bottom, comes up. That's the shape I'm going to prune this to. So the top here is going to be quite short. So here, this is a little bit too long. I'm also taking the wire cutters and cutting through the branch and the wire if I feel it should be shorter. So see these two branches here, they look the same length. I want this one to be maybe this short here. And I'm quite happy with this now, and all I did was just prune it to a, whoop, that one came out of place there. Just prune it to a triangular shape and leave it at that. So 2 steps essentially in shaping this tree. First of all, wire all the branches down and then cut it into a triangle. I want to eventually have this grow sort of a dome shape on the top, better apex, and all these branches that I have wired down will create that in the future. As these branches produce side buds, they will then become the apex here. I'm going to put this tree back into its pot now and just dress it up with some moss. And there you guys have it. That was just a quick, simple way on how to bonsai a large Picea like this one. And that just sets it up with the first styling for the next year whenever we can do more refinement work on it. And in the meantime, the tree will back bud more and grow a lot denser. Please share with me in the comments if you have done your own Picea like this one, what method you use to style it. And if you think I should have done something differently, I'm always open to new ideas. If you haven't already, please follow me on Instagram. I post regularly on there about trees that I work on off camera. So where is the front? This is the front of this tree. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. And on that, thank you so very much for watching.